Can you imagine the level of job creation we will have, the level of stimulation of economy with just a few $1 billion being given to entrepreneurs rather than being poured into already matured industries that are burning that money? They're literally burning it. Too many times as entrepreneurs, ignore what's happening in the political world because we don't want to get dragged down into the mess. But more today than ever before, we need to have a voice. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. I started Lurn exactly for this reason. So starting today with Freedom Friday, let me be your voice. What's up, you fighting entrepreneurs? Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday. This is your favorite person in the whole wide world, Anik, Singal, and today we're going to talk about proof that entrepreneurship is dying in America, but what we can do to save it, what I think we can do to save it, at least a part of what I think we can do to save it. All right, it's going to be a fun episode where we explore some controversial topics and, push some buttons. And hey, listen, I'm open to your arguments. If you don't agree with me, let's talk about it. Go to YouTube, find this episode, and there's comments below. Leave comments. I read them all, and sometimes I reply. And if you really come at me, I will definitely reply. All right. So having said that, listen, come on. Are you a part of Lurn.com yet? Lurn.com. We are putting entrepreneurs in there from all over the world. We're about to cross 300,000 as I film this. And guess what? We're going to be putting 10 million people in there. That's our goal. Over the next few years, we're going to get 10 million entrepreneurs from all over the world into that platform. So you imagine the things that we can do together. We, not the government, is going to save this world. We make change, not the governments, okay? So we got to come together as entrepreneurs. We are going to be building tons of social media features and the ability for you to connect with other entrepreneurs. And listen, we have to have a united voice. So that's what Lurn is. That's what I want to be. If we want to make an impact in this world, we need to be represented when it comes to the government, and we're not. We're not well represented there, okay? So come on. All right, now let's talk about the topic at hand, proof that entrepreneurship is dying in America. Now, I found this article. It's a little outdated. It's, but I still felt it was highly relevant. It was over at Inc. Magazine. It was online. So what I'm going to do is in the show notes, you can go to anikpodcast.com, ANIK podcast.com, and you can see the link to the original article. I picked out some of the parts that I thought were really interesting. So I kind of at my heart already knew that entrepreneurship is dying, but this put some numbers and statistics behind it, which were a little bit alarming. Now, it also connected it back to big corporations and what they're doing and how that's impacting entrepreneurs, and that blew my mind. And if you look at historically what's happened in our country in the private equity world, it all kind of fits together, and it all comes together and becomes this telling tale that makes sense. So in this article, I'm going to read the first stat here, which was crazy. So it said, the U.S. startup rate has been falling for decades. The Kauffman Foundation, citing its own research and drawing on the U.S. Census data, concluded that the number of companies less than a year old has declined as a share of all businesses by nearly 44% since 1978. So when they look at total businesses in the country, and they look at how many of them are less than 1 year old, back from 1978 to today, that ratio has dropped by 44%. So that definitely tells you less people are starting new companies. Now we're going to explore, throughout this article, we're going to explore why that could be happening. Okay, well, let's get right into that. So basically, let's see. There was this book. I want to promote this book because it was awesome, and I plan on reading it soon. But I love the conclusion that they drew and how they went about it. The book's title is Where the Jobs Are, Entrepreneurship and the Soul of the American Economy. They went out and they researched by interviewing 200 different founders, and they found top 5 reasons why entrepreneurs are right now saying that they are less likely to start companies than back 20, 30 years ago. And I can connect and feel each one. And I'm telling you right now, with the policies that I'm seeing in our government being issued every single year, I am not seeing us move in the right direction. Now, with the latest administration, we've made some fixes, but it's not been nearly enough. Okay, so number one reason that was stated, insufficient capital access. I'm telling you right now, at Lurn, I feel that we could grow so much quicker if it was easier for us to get capital. I'll come back and talk about why it's been difficult for us to get capital. I've not even tried because I know there's no point. There was actual legislation passed by the Obama administration early on, within the first year of him coming into office, to try to resolve the banking problem. I'm Franklin Dodd Act, if I'm not mistaken. Frank Dodd Act or whatever, something like that. That specifically barred banks from giving small businesses money. It was a risk aversion technique. It was nonsense. It was completely anti-entrepreneurs. Okay, number 2 reason found was difficulty finding people with the right skills. 100%. Getting great talent. Look, getting people is not difficult. Getting people with an advanced level of skills, at least in Lurn, because we're in such a specific industry and such a specific niche, it's tough. It is tough. That's probably not one of my biggest reasons, but that is definitely up there. Number 3, now this was really interesting, so I'm going to spend some time talking about it. Number 3 was immigration policies that keep talent out. Now, we know we've been having a lot of conversation about immigration lately, and there are 2 very extreme sides on it. Now, bar me for making an episode about immigration. I don't have the guts to do that just yet. Maybe in the future. But I do have some thoughts. I have some very strong thoughts and feelings on it. So I'm going to talk about it in respect to what I believe how it's impacting entrepreneurs. I actually do think that our immigration policies are completely backwards. And they're not set up in a way to grow the country, to grow the economy. They're set up the exact opposite. All right, number 4. I can't say this word. Onerous, basically bad taxes. Okay, so heavy taxing. Huge. But we've made major leaps and bounds in that area the last 2 years. And it's been super helpful for Lurn. It's been super helpful. The way we're getting to write off things is making me want to invest more. I'm actually spending more because I can write it off better, which is obviously, I'm sure I'm helping the economy and the GDP growth. But also by dropping our taxes, I'm able to give to my team more. I'm able to give to my employees more. Last year, we actually gave a Christmas bonus specifically because of the tax savings. And then number 5 is regulations. This one doesn't impact me as much. I know that if you're in different industries like health and energy, like regulations are hardcore. Our space, digital publishing, not so much. So, but these were 5 reasons. And actually, I was reading another study that specifically said that regulations, because the Trump administration has been dropping regulations like crazy, and business community. I'm just hearing what I'm hearing. The business community is saying it's definitely helping. So I've always heard, and I saw another research paper that showed countries with more regulation, more government involvement and free market, it definitely showed they have less entrepreneurship and less business growth. I'm going to take this page and put it to the side because I want to come back to it. But I wanted to continue kind of going over some of the other stats that I read that were pretty crazy. So in 1990, young people launched 33% of the startups out there. Okay, so that's kind of cool. 1/3 of new companies were launched by whatever they define as young people. They didn't say 20 and 30 year olds. Sorry, it's between 20 and 30. 20 and 30 years of age. 33%, that's pretty huge. But however, recently it's less than 18%. So that's dropping. So that means young people are not finding it advantageous to innovate and start new companies. Now, you got to understand, if you go back in the history of this country, the greatest innovations we've ever had were from entrepreneurs. The phone you hold in your hand, the computer you sit on was all entrepreneurs. All right, now, pause. All right, because the next chunk of it talks about how big companies are sucking up the oxygen for entrepreneurs. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about my ideas, my thoughts on how we can reverse this negative impact. How can we start to grow entrepreneurship in America again? Because I'll tell you right now, if we don't fix this, if we don't start to grow entrepreneurship in America again, we as a country are going to start to wither. It's just the way it is. If we are a free market capitalist country, we need entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the backbone of employment, are the backbone of the economy. But right now what's happening is that's not growing. And so number 1, insufficient access to capital. I want to talk about this. So it's discussed later in this. In 2002 or 2000, I think, there was a huge that stock bust, right? And massive bust. It was like people lost their entire their life savings. And VCs lost so much money. VCs lost so much money. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look for something here if you hear paper shuffling. There was a massive culture in the late 1990s of new venture funding. Now, of course, it went crazy. It was ridiculous, right? That's why we had the big bust, because people were just giving money to anything, to anyone. But now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. We've had the reverse issue. Series A funding and seed capital is down. I'm trying to get you the exact data here. Yeah, it's falling. but the amount of investment that is going into round C, D, and E is doubled. So let's talk about what that means. When a company is getting brand new funding, it's considered round A. Like there's seed capital, that's usually little bits of money, a couple $100,000, few $100,000. Then you go to Series A. Series A is when you'll get your first larger chunk, couple million, 3 million. Now I can tell you, because I'm invested in a company that went out to do its Series A, and we were looking great. Amazing growth, great story. And man, we got smacked around left and right, and it was crazy. They're like, nah, well, we you know what? You're too early stage for us. We would like to see you back when you've like at least tripled your revenue. And we're sitting there looking at them, how do you expect us to triple our revenue? We need someone to invest in us. We have shown proof. We have shown, but it wasn't enough. So even what we thought was proof enough wasn't. Imagine having no proof. So the access to capital has vanished. So people, investors, now this behavior will be driven by investors, right? With investors like you and I. So for me, I guess I don't want to put my money into brand new startups. If I'm nervous about 2000 happening again, I want to give it to companies that are already proven, that are already working, that have more security, and that are looking like they're maturing, they're going to IPO. But then what about the new guys? Where do they get their money from? So I propose something here. To solve problem number one, insufficient capital, I've always wondered, our government throws around billions of flipping dollars. Everything. Oh, this industry is falling apart. Agriculture, energy, health, banking. The billions here, billions here, billions here. Hey, how about this? How about we establish a government-backed fund that's $2 or $3 billion? But here's how it works, okay? Now I can hear you think, oh, people would go in there and steal money and run away. No. What if the government comes along and says, look, this fund is available to basically offer a loan that is equal to the amount of the investment made into a seed or a Series A fund, Series A company, not BCD. So this is only for early startups. But what the government says is, look, if a VC puts in $2 million into a company, we as a government will give a $2 million line of credit to said company. Here is where this protects the government and this protects the money from being misused. A, the VCs are putting their money in. So they are going to do some level of due diligence. They're not just going to pour $2 million into it. But this will really inspire VCs to put more money into Series A because they know that their money will get doubled and the company they put money into will have access to far more capital. The second thing the government can do is put in some tracking against certain VCs. So let's say they track failure rate in loan repayment. So if there's a particular VC that seems to invest 80% of its companies never repay the loan, well, knock that VC out of the program. Imagine how much that would hurt the VC. Companies would never want to get funded by them because they would not have access to this massive capital. So VCs will keep it clean. They will be checking deals. They will be feeling good about them, but they will want to explore Series A more because there is this extra capital. Now, you take half of that $2, $3, $4 billion that the government sets aside and you make it for companies that are not VC backed. Because look, I'm not VC backed. Lurn is not, but we should have capital. So you put another term there. So with them, perhaps you put access to capital. Now people will say, well, there's SBA. SBA is not anywhere near where it's supposed to be. I won't even touch it. It is such a crazy process to even be considered to get in. I don't even want to bother with it. So perhaps there is some level of investment that is made by the entrepreneur. There's some level of revenue that's been created, or perhaps the government comes in and says, look, if you qualify for a commercial bank loan to start your business, we'll match the loan with a line of credit. So now again, they can rely on the private sector to qualify that money before the government comes in and puts anything in. Can you imagine the level of job creation we will have, the level of stimulation of economy with just a few $1 billion being given to entrepreneurs rather than being poured into already matured industries that are burning that money? They're literally burning it. So have I thought it all the way through? No. Have I sat down with an economist? No. But at just a high level, look, I'm acting like I'm on a TEDx talk. I'm just proposing an idea. I think it could be huge. All right, let's move on to challenge number 2, and it was finding the right skills. So I remember here, and I'm sorry, but local county government, local city government, local state government, I'm calling you out. I'm in Maryland, Montgomery County, Rockville. I set up the Lurn Center here. The Lurn Center here is meant to be establishing people's skills. I wanted to do a lot of local marketing. I wanted to bring in people, teach them marketing, teach them, digital marketing, all of that. I went to the local representatives just to even explore the idea, the notion of getting some financial support from the government to help establish, to get some marketing help from the government, to get the word out, to partner with us, to do anything. Because I said, we will teach and support entrepreneurs. We'll build entrepreneurs. We will build digital marketers. This amazing skill set we'll give to people. And you know what the government said to me? Hey, what can you do for us? I literally was so appalled a year and a half ago when I started this center. I have not talked to a single politician in the local area since then. I want nothing to do with them because they were not here to support me at all. Doesn't surprise most people, right? But I genuinely had that dream. I thought, man, when I build this center, the facility, the mayors or the councilmen and the secretaries of the state would come in and be like, wow, let's really help this guy. He's got a vision. Let's do something. No. Nothing. As a matter of fact, I went and met the senator, and he asked me how I could support him helping build more companies in the sciences that get government I don't know what the heck he was talking about. He basically was asking me because there's a lot of medical stuff in this area. So he was like, no, I only want to help in those kinds of. How can you help me get those companies successful? I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, you're talking about this little specific sector, Well, anyways, couldn't get them to talk. So skill set. Hey, listen. Why don't we put more time and energy into technical schools and into skills-based schools and stop having this stupid ass argument, excuse my language, about paying for everyone's college and university? And why don't we give college and university a competition? I already did a podcast episode on Freedom Friday about that. That would solve problem number 2. Problem number 3, immigration policies that keep talent out. This blows my flipping mind. We have got rallies going on left and right about letting people in on everything but merit. And the minute our president talks about merit-based, people are in an uproar. Whereas every country you think about, look at out there, it's merit-based immigration. Heck, Canada has a grading scale. They give you points. You have to be above X points to get able to get in. Right above us. All right. You look at every country that is doing well. They have a merit-based system. My wife is from India, right? I married her. She came in. It's taken 5.5 years to get her citizenship, by the way, but that's fine. No problem. Now, her friends, I'm very impressed by. Her friends are freaking smart. When I say smart, I mean freaking smart, wicked smart, and doing very well. They've all kind of left India, which is sad. It's a separate conversation for India, and they're in America and they're in Canada and UK and other places. And to see the level of stress they go through to be able to stay in this country, it's appalling. We should be rolling out the red carpet. These are high-earning, smart, contributing individuals. We should be opening the door. So at Lurn right now, I need more coders and developers, man. Developers are expensive. Talk about a supply and demand issue. They walk around, they strut around like they got it all, and they do. They have all the cards in their deck because there are 16 people ready to eat them up right now at amazingly high salaries, which is amazing. But do you know how much development experience there is around the world? Why, as a government, are we not incentivizing more people with high-level technical skills, development skills, to come into this market, to create some competition, to give companies like myself who can't compete with Google on salaries for developers a chance at getting developers? And if I want to bring them in, they say, well, get in on the lottery system for H-1 visa. What the heck is that about? We got people pouring in that aren't bringing any skill sets, yet I as a company want to hire people with talent, skills, who are high earning, who will pay taxes, who will do, and I have to get on a lottery system? Makes no sense. So number 3, we got to fix that. We need to create classifications of high skilled, highly talented, educated people. They should not have to go through so many jumps. They should be allowed in. All right. We're not going to flood the market. Trust me, there's a lot of industries where there's plenty of room for people to come in. Let's bring scientists in. Let's bring researchers in. Let's bring developers in. Let's bring marketers in. Let's bring people that are executives in other companies. Man, let's lure them into our economy. Give them to our businesses. Make us more competitive with the talent that we're given. Give us access. Come on. Number 4, taxes. I don't even talk about it. It's this whole ridiculous notion of tax the wealthy, tax businesses. Where do you think economic growth comes from? Stop it. So I'm not going to talk about it, though, because we're already moving in the right direction there, and I feel that we will stay in that way. Regulations, I don't know. I'm not qualified to talk about regulations. It's not impacted me that much. But listen, the one I'm most passionate about is number one, when I talked about insufficient access to capital. Come on, government. Give us nickels on the dollar of what you're pouring out there in other industries. Difficulty finding right people. College and universities, you are on notice. You need competition. And I am leaning on the government to give them that competition. Stop giving them more money. Stop paying for everyone. Stop proposing that you're going to pay for everyone's college and university and bring them to check. Give them competition. Number three, immigration policies that keep talent out. It's stupid. Merit-based should be prepped up, should be plotted up. Give us entrepreneurs access to worldwide talent. If you don't give us access here, guess what? We're going to go there. So then don't get upset when we outsource our jobs. Don't get upset when we move out to another country and we open up offices in other countries and keep the revenue that we generate in that country and don't bring it back to America and pay taxes. Don't get upset. If you want us to do it, give us the talent here. All right, last piece of my rant today, big companies. This was really interesting. Big companies are a big part of what's going on and why we're having struggles in entrepreneurs. Look at this stat. I'm going to read this. Given that existing American companies opened roughly 50%, existing American companies opened roughly 50% more branches in 2011 than they did in 1978, the challenge for startups is clear. We're up against, look, if you're an existing company and you're doing well, you already have access to way more money than a startup does. That's problem number one. I already talked about that. Problem number two is we are favoring these companies. These companies are growing quicker. They have more clout, more lobbying. So startups don't stand a chance because back in 1978, 80% of new establishments were startups. 80%. So we are being out-competed. Here's the other part, big companies. Look at this stat. This was huge. This is research from Play Bigger, which advises business leaders on creating new markets. Found that tech companies today achieve market cap milestones such as 500 million, 1 billion, 5 billion, big numbers, 3 times faster today than they did 15 years ago. It makes perfect sense. All the capital, all the access to money is going to these companies that are established. They are growing way quicker. And guess the problem that's creating? The biggest problem it's creating is talent. I can't compete with Facebook, with Google. I can't compete with them when it comes to paying for talent. I'll never win. I just can't as a startup. So we've got to create an environment where we equal this out. Otherwise, innovation in this country will begin to decrease. The employment problem will begin to become a problem. I know right now we're sitting at the lowest unemployment, but that can only last so long. Entrepreneurs drive free markets. You got to give us the ability to last and to win. So if anyone from the government's listening, help us out. Come on. You're pouring money into all these other places. Private market's not going to change, okay? Private market is a greedy market. It needs to be influenced. That's why the government does its tax incentives that it does. So if the government doesn't want to create tax plans, all right, if it doesn't want to create if it doesn't want to give us a few $1 billion to create a fund, if it doesn't want to do that, then listen, government, why don't you create tax incentives for investors who give private equity money to startups? You do it for real estate already. That's what got me to start investing in real estate because you give such great tax incentives. So why don't you do the same thing for free market investors who invest in startups, seed and Series A? You will see money pour in, jobs explode, innovation explode, capital access bloom, talent being bloomed. And then the second thing, layer it on with merit-based immigration that allows floods of people in the right industries with the right credentials to get in. Oh, man, utopia for entrepreneurship. It's not that hard to do. Pretty easy solution. What do you think? I don't know. This is what I think, but what do you think? So, hey, listen, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please go to anikpodcast.com, click over to the iTunes and leave us a great review. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you know what to do. Click subscribe, click the thumbs up icon, click the bell icon, and leave me a comment. I can't wait to have a conversation with you about this. Let's save entrepreneurship, ladies and gentlemen. Let's save entrepreneurship, not just in America, but all over the world. Because in the end, entrepreneurs are those who will save the world. Without entrepreneurs, we're doomed. So make it happen. And make sure you go to Lurn.com, Lurn.com. Sign up for your free lifetime membership. Get involved in the community as we put 10 million people into it. You can either stand by and watch us move right by you, or you can be a part of the movement. This is Anik Singal reminding you, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. Come on, fighting entrepreneurs. Go out there and fight. Until the next time we talk.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.